If you live in a house that's wood, stucco, or has wood or asphalt shingles, ABC Seamless Siding is the best investment you can make to increase the value of your home, lower maintenance costs, and lower utility bills. ABC Seamless Siding is different in many ways. One of the most important differences is your ABC dealer. All other siding is manufactured in a factory somewhere and shipped in boxes to a distributor. This distributor then sells the siding to many different builders or remodelers who in turn sell to homeowners. Any number of siding dealers can offer you the same brand of siding. However, there may be a big difference in the price they charge, depending on the skill of their workmen, whether or not they do the complete job, including all trim and finishing work, and whether or not they stand behind their work with a strong warranty. Your ABC Seamless Siding dealer has highly specialized machinery to manufacture siding right on the job, right there at your house, so there's no distributor, and you save middleman profits. His company must be financially strong to make the investment in equipment and training needed to become an authorized ABC Seamless dealer. You are assured he has the resources to do your job right and to stand behind his work. He subscribes to a code of ethics governing the way he does business. He guarantees that ABC Seamless Siding is your best buy, and he gives you a lifetime limited warranty. And remember, only ABC Seamless offers siding with no ugly seams or splices. Someday, all siding will be made like this. But why wait until someday when you can have ABC Seamless Siding now?
Are you tired of seeing your hard-earned money being thrown out the window? Does it seem like your energy bills are constantly rising? ABC Seamless Siding, insulation, and energy-efficient windows can help you lower your energy bills. With ABC Seamless, you can make your home more beautiful on the outside and save money too. As an energy-conscious consumer, I fully endorse ABC Seamless Siding. Call today. They will show you how cost-effective ABC Seamless really is.
This is CNN.
President Bush on the world stage. He and Russian leader Boris Yeltsin promise a new era, friendship, partnership, and trust.
But what do people think of President Bush's job on the domestic stage? Coming up, their views on the president's pocketbook proposals. Hello, I'm Jonathan Mann.
And I'm Andrea Arceneaux from CNN. This is The World Today. The leaders of the U.S. and Russia today spoke of trust, freedom, and partnership. Gone but not forgotten were the words of confrontation and Cold War. CNN's Mary Tillotson reports on today's meeting between Presidents George Bush and Boris Yeltsin.
It was chilly as President Bush welcomed President Yeltsin to Camp David, even for February.
I want to make you guys feel at home with the weather.
But after 3 hours of talk, their first one-on-one meeting since the death of the old Soviet system and Yeltsin's ascendancy, the political mood was decidedly warm.
From now on, we do not consider ourselves to be potential enemies, as it had been previously in our military doctrine. This is the historic value of this meeting.
And I consider him my friend.
Where Bush administration officials once favored communist reformer Mikhail Gorbachev and privately branded Yeltsin boorish, Mr. Bush now had nothing but praise for President Yeltsin's more radical political and economic reform. Mr. Bush said if they succeed, it will be largely because of Yeltsin, just as it was largely because of Yeltsin that the communist coup failed in Moscow in August.
He laid his life on the line on top of a tank to make that message loud and clear, and the whole world rejoiced in it when they saw his courage. He's applying that same courage, and not saying that just because he's standing here. He's applying that same courage now to this concept of economic reform.
Though Yeltsin clearly wants more help from the world for his struggling economy, he said he did not come to Camp David, as he put it, just to stretch out his hand, but to stress what's at stake.
If the reform in Russia goes under, that means there will be a Cold War. Cold War is going to turn into a hot war. This is again going to be an arms race. Again, this will be the same regime that we have just recently rid ourselves.
In a declaration issued by the two presidents, they only pledged to take steps to reduce their strategic arsenals. But both leaders stressed U.S. Secretary of State Baker will be in Moscow within 2 weeks to pursue new arms control initiatives from both sides. initiatives that would roughly halve their number of long-range missiles. Yeltsin has also suggested pooling their nuclear scientists for space research or research to create what he calls a global defense. That's one way the U.S. could help Yeltsin stop the Russian brain drain, and U.S. officials say Mr. Bush is receptive to the idea. But Yeltsin's most immediate worry is creating a Commonwealth system to hold chaos at bay in the old Soviet Union. Asked if the Commonwealth he has fathered will survive, he said the new system is only 2 months old.
This is still a baby in diapers. You've got to take care of it. You've got to handle it carefully so you don't drop it.
Bush and Yeltsin parted with no new agreements to sign, yet. But they will meet again soon. U.S. officials expect the next summit to be in Washington in the spring, and President Bush has accepted a reciprocal invitation to be Boris Yeltsin's guest later in the year. Mary Tillotson, CNN, the White House.
From Camp David, Mr. Yeltsin went to Washington for a meeting with leaders of Congress. The Russian president again asked for economic, food, and medical aid. He emphasized, though, the request should be answered by other nations around the world, not just the U.S. Congressional leaders agreed with that.
It should be all of the Western countries, including the European countries and Japan, which provide assistance. This is not a situation which can be resolved by unilateral American action, nor should it be. Any efforts we make ought to be part of a broader effort because other nations, Western nations, democratic societies, have much the same interest we do in seeing the success of democracy in the new confederation, Russia and the other republics.
After the meeting in Washington, Mr. Yeltsin left the U.S., heading for a stopover in Canada. While President Bush was performing on the world stage today, his domestic performance was getting rock-bottom reviews. A new CNN Time magazine poll shows Mr. Bush's popularity has hit another record low. His approval rating is now down to 44%. It has dropped 5 points since mid-January and 42 points since last March. As for the economic recovery plan Mr. Bush announced in his State of the Union speech last Tuesday, 53% say it won't work. 58% of those polled say the president's proposals are more an election year gimmick than genuine help. And one of those saying gimmick is none other than Mr. Bush's Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
Clearly, the withholding idea is a gimmick. It's a phony. And frankly, I cannot sit here on your show and retain my credibility and say that allowing people another $30 a month is going to spur economic recovery. It isn't. There's only one thing that will get this economy going again, and it's what the chief banker of the United States of America and chairman of the Fed, Alan Greenspan, said, and that is an immediate cut in the capital gains rate to 15 or eliminating it altogether.
Kemp says the president will veto any bill that redistributes income or raises tax rates for the wealthy.
Pessimism over the president's economic plan could stifle spending and limit expansion. But if consumer confidence builds, that could bring growth. CNN's Gary Tuckman has more on how consumers are reacting to Mr. Bush's proposals to boost spending.
It's not the best of times for people who sell items ranging from diamond chips to chocolate chips. U.S. consumers are playing it coy, not quite ready to spend the economy back into health.
Have to save for the future. There's no telling what can happen tomorrow.
One thing that will be happening if President Bush gets his way is a number of tax breaks for individuals and corporations in order to encourage spending. And the part of the plan getting the most attention from many doesn't require congressional approval. It's a plan to lower individual tax withholding rates, which will raise the typical U.S. paycheck. Over the next year, billions of dollars that normally would not be available to stimulate the economy will be available. And some say they plan to take advantage of their share of the billions.
We'll probably spend it.
We'll probably use it for vacation time.
But for many feeling the economic crunch, spending the tax money they would normally get back at the end of the year in refunds is hardly the first thing that comes to mind. Saving and paying off debt are the first priorities.
That money, I'm going to be saving it for a while. I'm still a little leery. And when I see things go down even further, like housing prices, maybe then I'll let loose a little bit.
People letting themselves loose would be a welcome sight for business people who during this recession have found themselves fit to be tied.
I hope that people will start to spend. They won't be afraid to spend. They'll think the economy is getting better, so they'll want to contribute to the economy.
New York University economics professor Robert Cavish thinks the president's plans have the potential to help, but not as much as if the president just did nothing.
The great danger now is to pull out all the stops. Cut taxes, increase spending, do all kinds of things, and have what amounts to a Christmas tree of changes that might bring about a return of inflation rather than economic growth.
Business people have many theories over how to improve economic growth, but most of them will be the first to cheer if these current theories turn the economy around, an economy that sorely needs any kind of lift. Gary Tuckman, CNN, Paramus, New Jersey.
And just ahead on The World Today, the latest on an earthquake in Japan.
And a startling new report says the world may not have seen the last of Saddam Hussein's Scud missiles after all.
And the latest CNN Time magazine poll on how President Bush is faring against potential Democratic challengers. This and more as The World Today continues.
Listen. Listen to the sound of a whole other road. Eating apple cinnamon Cheerios. Hey!
Real apples, whole grain oats, and cinnamon make every O taste as good as it sounds.
Listen to the sound of a whole other road. Apple cinnamon Cheerios. Listen.
These slip down one more time. I'm fed up with glasses that don't fit.
You don't have to put up with glasses that don't fit anymore. Because at LensCrafters, we have so many new ways to make glasses more comfortable.
LensCrafters glasses fit your snug points with features like new snug fit hinges that hug your head and won't lose their gentle hold. LensCrafters, for that cushion of comfort you've always wanted.
I never knew glasses could be this comfortable.
LensCrafters, better fit for greater comfort in about an hour.
Right now, when you book a Holland America Line cruise or cruise tour to Alaska, you'll save up to $300 per couple, which means you can enjoy exquisite dining, midnight sun, the finest service, and the spouting of whales, all at a remarkable value. There's no better way to see the great land than with the most experienced travel company in Alaska, and no better time to see your travel agent than today.
I can't remember. It was something new.
Nicoderm, nicotine transdermal system.
Yeah, it's called Nicoderm. Oh, yeah, the patch. Nicoderm, huh?
Yeah, it's a patch. Nicoderm, nicotine transdermal system.
There's good news for those of you who've been staying up late to watch the late news. Headline News has the latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
At least 2 people were killed early this morning when a van plunged off a California cliffside. Police say the van landed in the stormy Pacific 500 feet below. A helicopter managed to pluck an 18-year-old man from the face of the cliff. He told authorities that 2 or 3 people were still trapped inside the submerged van. Rescuers recovered the bodies of 2 people from the choppy waters. Officials say jagged rocks and rough seas battered and crushed the van to the point where divers could not determine if there were any victims inside.
Tokyo residents got a rude awakening before dawn today as a strong earthquake shook the city. The quake was centered about 16 miles south of Tokyo and registered 5.7 on the Richter scale. At least 15 people were injured in the quake, but little structural damage was reported, even though the quake could be felt all along Japan's eastern coast. It heaped insult on injury for Tokyo residents, all of them still trying to dig out from the worst snowstorm in 6 years. In Turkey, more than 100 people have been killed in a series of avalanches. Hundreds more are missing. The worst snowslide buried an entire town near Turkey's border with Iraq, causing at least 73 deaths. Search and rescue operations are continuing at the avalanche sites, and government officials fear they will find more victims. Heavy snowfall has blanketed the region for the past 3 months.
A published report says Iraq is still working round the clock to turn out Scud missiles. U.S. News and World Report quotes unidentified sources who say Iraq now has 800 of the missiles. The magazine says they're being manufactured in an underground plant that Western officials have yet to find. The report also says the U.S. seriously underestimated the number of Iraqi missiles and launchers at the start of the Gulf War. Fighting has reportedly spread to at least a half-dozen villages in Nagorno-Karabakh, an embattled region within the former Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan. For almost 4 years, Armenians have fought with Azerbaijanis for control of the region, which has been disputed for decades. More than 30 people reportedly died in clashes over the last 24 hours. Today, the Armenians' leader requested that the UN peacekeeping forces be sent to the region.
The U.S. Coast Guard says it probably will not begin sending Haitian refugees home this weekend. Nearly 10,000 Haitians who tried to flee to the U.S. by sea are being held at the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. A U.S. Supreme Court ruling last night allows the U.S. to send home Haitians who don't qualify for asylum. The Bush administration said it will begin doing so. Other legal challenges are pending.
Well, as the New Hampshire primary nears, President Bush is slipping in the polls, but is still beating a named Democrat. A new CNN Time magazine poll shows Mr. Bush losing to an unnamed Democrat. 35% of those surveyed would vote for the president, while 38% would vote for a Democrat. That slim lead falls within the poll's margin of error. When you give the Democrat a name, Mr. Bush wins. The Democrat who finished best in the poll, Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, trails Mr. Bush by 7 percentage points. Clinton returned to New Hampshire today for some more campaigning. He attended a health care forum in Manchester. Senator Bob Kerrey of Nebraska was also talking about health care. He pitched his plan for national health care to a group of voters in Dover. Kerry and Clinton traded barbs last night over the health care issue and a nationally televised debate between the top Democrats. Kerry says Clinton's plan doesn't go far enough. Clinton says Kerry's plan calls for too much new tax.
We want to move our party in a new direction.
Democrats were not the only ones stomping in New Hampshire. Conservative columnist Pat Buchanan spoke to supporters in Shelburne, New Hampshire. Buchanan is mounting an attack on Mr. Bush from the right for the Republican nomination. He urged voters to send President Bush a message that new leadership was needed. And Vice President Dan Quayle stomped in several locations on behalf of his boss. He met with former White House Chief of Staff John Sununu, who has begun campaigning for Mr. Bush in New Hampshire. Sununu is the state's former governor. Quayle took some questions at a forum in Milford. One question caught him a bit off guard.
How come you didn't run for president this year?
Very simply why I didn't run for president this year. Because I am for George Bush for president this year.
The New Hampshire primary, the nation's first, takes place in 17 days. And when the World Today continues...
The Connecticut Huskies took their 16-1 record into Madison Square Garden, but Big East rival St. John's wasn't impressed.
And lawyers for Mike Tyson win around in court as his rape trial continues in Indianapolis. Details coming up.
The average cost of this luxury car is $37,000. The average cost of the American home is $134,000. The average cost of a private college education is $45,891. Yet the cost to examine this magazine is nothing. Just call this number now, and we'll send you Money Magazine to examine risk-free. If you like it, do nothing, and we'll continue your subscription with articles on better ways to cut your taxes, how to look for a smart investment that delivers exceptional returns. Money will show you ways to improve your lifestyle, get more value from your home. We'll even outline 12 steps to financial security. So in a world where costs are high and so are risks, take advantage of Money's risk-free offer. Call this number now. We'll send you your first issue of Money Magazine to examine risk-free. If you find Money is not for you, then just write cancel on the bill and send it back. The issue is yours to keep free. Otherwise, we'll continue your subscription with 12 more informative, entertaining issues for a total of 13, payable in 4 monthly installments of just $8.99 each. Your taxes average $4,800. A retirement plan costs $2,400 yearly. Yet these financial guides cost you nothing. Because if you call now, we'll also send you Money's Financial Advisor free. It's a 3-part series that helps you manage your money, build a future, and achieve your dreams. So why not call now and examine your first issue of Money risk-free? Plus, get the Financial Advisor free. And while the average American phone bill is $45.33, this phone call will cost you nothing.
Call this number now and take advantage of Money's risk-free offer. It has the perfect ring to it.
Mike Tyson's lawyers scored a major victory today in the former heavyweight boxing champion's rape trial. CNN's Jeff Flock has more now on what happened in the unusual Saturday session.
Ma'am, would you be willing to say anything at all?
Virginia Foster had a story to tell, but she wasn't allowed to tell it. Foster is the limousine driver who ferried Mike Tyson from stop to stop during his 36 hours in Indianapolis last July. She charges that before he allegedly raped this 18-year-old beauty pageant contestant, he attacked her. Foster made the claim in this appearance before the grand jury that indicted Tyson last summer, and prosecutor Greg Garrison sought to have the charges brought out here. Garrison told the judge that Foster would tell jurors that Tyson grabbed her, assaulted her, and exposed himself to her. Garrison says that 24 hours before the alleged rape, Tyson used the same ruse to get Foster to his room, that he wanted to talk to her. Then, Garrison charged, Tyson assaulted Foster.
Can you tell us that story now?
But Indiana law prohibits the jury from considering evidence of past uncharged crimes. So Foster was forced to keep silent and confine her testimony to events concerning the alleged rape victim. On that subject, she testified that from her limousine, she overheard Tyson make a cellular phone call to the alleged victim and heard him beg her for a date. And she said that when the woman later emerged from Tyson's hotel, she looked frantic, like she may have been in a state of shock. Foster said she was dazed, disoriented, and seemed scared.
The week's testimony concluded with the doctor who examined Tyson's accuser testifying that she had vaginal cuts that were characteristic of rape victims. The defense team maintains the sex was consensual and suggests that the abrasions came because of their heavyweight boxer client's larger-than-average anatomy. I'm Jeff Flock, CNN, Indianapolis.
A lot of college basketball today. Tell us about that is Ron Hyde. Good evening, Ron.
Good evening, Andrea. You know, the football season's over except for tomorrow's Pro Bowl, so basketball and hockey are pretty much the focus. Our focus is college basketball. Today from Madison Square Garden, a Big East battle between number 6 Connecticut and St. John's. The Huskies entered play winless in their last 13 games against the Redmen in New York. So St. John's coach Lou Carnesecca, who was elected to Basketball's Hall of Fame yesterday, trying to pull off the upset. Early on, St. John's, Jason Buchanan quickly down court, over to Malik Sealy for the jam, and the Redmen with an early 6-2 advantage. A few minutes later, Chucky sprawling with a three-pointer. St. John's was on a 14-0 run to lead it 14-2. Jim Calhoun's Huskies trailed by 25 at halftime. It got worse. Second half, UConn's Donyell Marshall stuffed Levin's Kane. 2-on-2 fast break for Connecticut. They can't convert. St. John's puts away their Big East rival. Malik Sealy, 25 points, 18 rebounds on his 22nd birthday. Number 4, Indiana. Number 13, Michigan State. Judd Heathcote. Indiana's Bobby Knight, a laugh just before tip-off. Early second half, Michigan State up by 7. Spartans, Mike Poplawski with a basket and foul. He had 16 points. The Spartans led by 10, 38-28. A bit later, Spartans on the break. Pass it around. Matt Steginga with a zip pass to Anthony Miller. Spartans on top by 10, 44-35. Get the picture? Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers did. They fall 76-60. In afternoon top 25 action, Duke remained unbeaten, routing Notre Dame. Christian Laettner had 27 points. Oklahoma hit a 3 at the buzzer, but what they needed was a 4-pointer. Kansas wins it 96-95, and the game just ended. Alabama held off SEC rival Florida, and UNC Charlotte a winner over Southern Mississippi. Now, one of the great golf tournaments of the year is doubtlessly the AT&T Pro-Am from the beautiful Monterey Peninsula in California. Sure, it's serious, but it's also a whole lot of fun. For instance, Huey Lewis making news here. Not a bad-looking stroke for the rock star, but he rocks it off the tree, and I guess Huey ought to stick to music, but he's good-natured about it. Anyway, Mark O'Mara on the 18th hole, out of the bunker. The beautiful shot. He's 11 under for the tournament with a 2-stroke lead on Jeff Sluman. O'Mara leads the field with one more round to play tomorrow. Today is the day NFL teams must submit their list of 37 players who were protected during the Plan B free agent period. The NFL will release the names soon, and we'll have the notables for you on CNN Sports Saturday at 7:30 Eastern Time. We'll also update you on college hoops, U.S.-Argentina Davis Cup tennis, golf, and much, much more. I'm Ron Hyde. World Today will continue after this.
Why should I have to wait a week for my dealer to fix my brakes just because I own a foreign car?
For foreign car brakes, Midas gets the job done right, and right away.
I wouldn't settle for anything less than the right parts.
Midas stocks the right brake parts for practically every foreign car.
So I went to Midas.
Midas brake technicians are trained experts. That's why we guarantee every brake shoe and pad for as long as you own your foreign car. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
It's the biggest thing to happen to sci-fi, ever. I love the characters. I love the aliens.
I love the special effects.
Captain Picard is my man.
What if I told you Star Trek The Next Generation is now available on video, and you could own your first 2-hour episode for just $4.95?
I'll take it.
Star Trek The Next Generation on video cassette for just $4.95? Wow.
Just $4.95?
I love this show.
Now you can own Star Trek The Next Generation on video cassette, beginning with the 2-hour series premiere Encounter at Farpoint. Yours for just $4.95.
Geordi is so cool.
Well, you gotta love Data.
Call now and begin collecting your favorite adventures, your favorite episodes.
My favorite? Haven. Data lore.
Heart of Glory.
Start now with Encounter at Farpoint. Yours for just $4.95.
Just $4.95?
How do I get it?
Call now to start your collection. Get your first Star Trek The Next Generation video cassette for just $4.95. Call now.
You got to own it.
Get the inside track from today's top coaches and a look at the USA Today CNN Coaches Poll on College Coaches Corner. Sunday morning, 11 Eastern on CNN.
Some fairly harsh weather brewing up on the northeast of the United States. And with details is Ted Textor. Good evening, Ted.
Andrea, good evening. It is very breezy along the coast. The storm system offshore, thank goodness it's not any closer because it's throwing lots of moisture back. High winds, it will produce more in the way of high seas, especially when high tide comes by tomorrow morning. And it's going to snow, continue to snow through eastern sections of Maine. Up to a foot of accumulation is expected there. There are lighter snows along the lakes, with the cooler air drawing across the warmer water, producing a little bit of lake effect. And back further westward now, you've seen a lot of moisture streaming up through Texas into Oklahoma. Rain showers there are certainly not needed. Beneficial rains have been falling, though, in the northwestern U.S., down into northern California, and that will continue. Here's the CNN color radar summary. You can see the commotion out in the west is not real evident here, not showing up terribly well because of the mountains out there. Remember, the radar just bumping into mountains. Further south, down into Texas now, we're seeing invasion of moisture there. It will rain for another day or two until finally all of that moves further east into the Gulf region throughout the next couple of days, as mentioned. There's a lake effect snow coming off of Lake Erie in Ontario, and off in the east, the big storm there offshore, but still producing a lot of onshore weather. It looks like that will continue. Here's the forecast map through the day tomorrow. You can see the position of the low, still drawing that cold air on in from Canada. It is going to add to the problems. Still high winds there throughout the day tomorrow, and more in the way of snow shower activity. There are gale warnings and storm warnings as well, all along the coast on down further south into almost the Chesapeake Bay area. Back westward then through the day, high pressure building into the Ohio River Valley, and a little milder air moving on up through the central United States, so a continuation of the warm, very, very nice weather, actually, considering the time of year. Moisture pushes further northward, too, all the way into the Four Corners area, further northward, producing more rain and some snow in the higher elevations. Northwest, see what happens throughout the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. The forecast weather map for that time period shows more moisture moving on in, more rain there, back further southward, more in the way of rain on up into Oklahoma by evening tomorrow, and the East Coast, for the most part, will begin to dry up and settle down a little. By Sunday into Monday, the progression of the storm shows the rain moving into the western Gulf. North and east finally drying up and settling down even more. Northwest, more rain. Now these forecasts for cities around the nation. At least another day of warmth in the plains. Now here's Jonathan Mann.
Thanks, Ted. For February, the weather in New York City is pretty pleasant, but for ice carvers, the mercury is just a touch too high. That hasn't stopped some teams from turning out, though, for some frigid works of art in Central Park. Working with 300-pound cakes of ice, the carving teams chiseled out a tribute to the '92 Olympic Games and a giant wave with a boat on top.
Very nice pieces. Coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, protesters take aim at a new movie morality code proposed by the Catholic Church. Thanks for watching. I'm Andrea Arceneaux.
And I'm Jonathan Mann. Up next, Pinnacle profiles Bill Moran, a man who has some advice on how out-of-work professionals can get back into the workplace. Stay with us as CNN Weekend continues.
I bought a new Pontiac Bonneville because I saved over $3,000. Compare Pontiac's low 2.9 APR to a conventional finance rate, and you'll save money, just like me. I was excited about Bonneville's great styling and features, and even more excited about saving over $3,000. Hurry, if you don't buy a Bonneville before February 4th, these savings will